Well, my gift to you this Thanksgiving season is the gift to tell you to be honest. It's real easy to be dishonest, to take or to steal the littlest thing when nobody's looking, or to perhaps cheat somebody in some small way to get ahead of them. You can justify it 1,000 ways, but it's never right. It's never right. And in the city of McCook now, of 10,000 people, it's estimated that we're closing real close to 400 cameras, so that means you're always on camera. But I'll tell you, some years back, before the cameras were a hot item, I'll tell you that our store here was having problems. Some stealing was happening. And since I'm the only one at night, they had to assume it was me that was doing the stealing. And so they set up cameras around to watch to see what I was stealing. And this is the way it went. Well, the first night, the law enforcement called the boss and said, well, we got him stealing. And the boss said, okay, what's he stealing? Me. What was I stealing? And they said, well, he's stealing ice. And the boss said, no, he ain't stealing. I told him he could have all the ice he wants. Considering he's worked for me for 20 years, he can have all the ice he wants for free. So that stopped that one. The next thing that came up, they decided they'd throw some money on the table, a lot of money on the table. And so I walked by that night, and I stopped and I took out of my own billfold and threw $5 down on it. So they called the boss and they said, what's this about? Did he know about it? Boss said, no. He said, where'd you put the money? And they said, on the edge of the table. And he said, well, quite often we put a note there on the edge of the table, and if somebody's had a funeral, death in the family, and people want to put money down for the flowers, or if somebody's got a sick kid in the hospital, they put a note there, and people can put money there if they so desire. And sometimes a note gets bumped off, but if there's money there, you know there's a need, that one of the employees has a need. And so he had stopped and put $5 down on that night. I did. And the cops were shocked that somebody would do something like that. And again, they weren't convinced, though, that I wasn't dirty yet. The next thing they came up with over the next few weeks was they started setting booze out here on the table. Expensive booze. And they'd have it open so that, and part of it was it'd be empty. And so it would be, in most mindset of people, they probably think maybe they could take a swig of that and no one would know. No one would even know that you'd taken a swig of booze. And after about 2 weeks of leaving all kinds of booze and beer out for me to steal, they finally talked to the boss. And the boss said, well, he's always said he's never drank a beer in his life. And they finally had to resign themselves. If he ever did drink, he sure doesn't anymore. And even when he has it right in front of him, and he's alone, he doesn't drink. But they still didn't think that I was a good guy yet. They had to try some other things. The next thing they came up with was that they took a bag and they had it full of money from the day's receipts. It must have been, I have a few dollars in here now, but it just should give you an example, but there must have been $1,500 the day's take from the store. $1,500 in there. Massive sum of money, I'm here to tell you. But I grabbed the sack. I almost threw it away thinking it was trash because it was sitting back here. But I glanced in it and I realized, holy cow, all that money in there. So I called the boss, and the boss said, okay, we'll come get it. But can you imagine all of the different ways that they targeted me over about a 3-month period trying to get me to break the law because they couldn't conceive of anyone else that was doing it. Well, they finally looked around and they did find a number of other people that were bending the rules or stealing. But rest assured, you never know when you're being watched, then or now, and it's even more prevalent now. Today we have 9 cameras in the store watching every move we make. But they're out there in the public, they're at the parks, no matter where you are, you're being watched. But I do not fear the government. I do not fear the police or Homeland Security or the CIA or any of the alphabet soup companies out there that pretend to be government. The only thing I fear is Jesus Christ, and having to walk up to Him on Judgment Day and try to explain sins that I've committed, that I just wouldn't want to have to do that. And it would hurt Him, and I don't want to hurt my Lord. And I hope that down the road that you will also understand, if you don't already, that stealing is never worth it. It's never the right way to do it, and you will pay one way or another. Karma, what goes around comes around. I believe strongly in that. This is McCook's Mr. Bill. You have a good Thanksgiving.